difference between tasks and processes was clear from what I said earlier. And I'm going to start with showing you, I just create a single task, right? I'm going to hire Joey. This creates a task, and this task can be broken down into subtasks. So it's actually becoming kind of a case, because I can say an interview needs to be done, contract needs to be created, and the email account needs to be set up. So I can just break it down. I can say, hey Mary, so I can just on the fly involve new people into this case. Can you take care of the contract? She could reply, I'm not going to switch the account because that's too easy. She could say, or I could say I'll also upload the template, for instance. And then I could do, like, is there a contract template? Yes. Just assign the document. And this is what you could call a case where you have a number of people involved. You could assign this task. You can break it down into subtasks. And the nice thing is also that each individual task here can be as simple as a checkbox item, every task. But if you want to break it down further, you can open up a single task, and that on itself is a collaboration space. So you can start breaking it down further. Details, edit the document, save it. But that's you can bring it down further, right? And the other thing I wanted to show here is that on the right we have a stream of all the things that happen for this particular case, and by default we show it as an audit trail. We show everything that happened, but of course sometimes you just want to focus on the conversation, which is typically what we normally, or as an alternative, would find in your inbox. You could also just have a list of all the documents that were referenced in this case, or you could just show everything in there. So, and this is basically all ad hoc. There's no process involved, but this already can be quite useful to coordinate tasks on the fly. And when you have this instrument and you put processes as next to it and nicely integrated, it means that you can go from highly structured, repetitive work, and you can cover the whole range up to a one-off task that you want to collaborate on. So you don't need to choose your solution, like for one-off we need to do this, for process we need to do this. And it's like a nice blend. So now I'll show you what happens when, okay, this is one hire. What if we envision or expect multiple hires to happen in the future? Let's see if I can automate that a bit or make my life simple. And I'm going to start on purpose very easily so that you can see a couple of aspects. So first process is the hire process. I am showing this because with Effektif we focused a lot on user experience, as I already mentioned, and this is one of the things which we really get a lot of consistent feedback that Effektif helps them build processes. Once they get started on creating a process, there's a lot of guidance. So it just says, asks you the question, like, how do you want new hires to get started? It's either manual and you start a new process in the application. You can just automatically start a new process when an email arrives, or in this case when a form is submitted. But this list is, of course, just explained if this and that. the idea is there. This list is going to grow. There's going to be a lot of triggers in your enterprise IT systems, like documents entering into some folder in the document management system, and other kind of triggers that are going to populate this list. And we also are working on, or not working on, we actually have an API now that allows you to add new triggers for your specific use case. So if your organization says we have these triggers that we want to use in processes, you can start adding your own. The same for the actions. Okay, but let's start very basic. We use the manual trigger, and we then have and compose a number of actions. So what do we want to compose here? We have in the actions, we have two modes. We have the very simple, by default, the action list, and we have the advanced flows. So for us, the diagram is already the advanced way, and the simple action list is the very basic way on how you get started. So you start with creating the user task and say, okay, for every hire, we want to do an interview. Then we want to do the contract, just like I had before, and the email account, also really important that we do that each time. Okay. So, and just adding those three tasks, just like this, is sufficient. You can already publish and run your first process. Note that publishing is like, for me as a developer, always feels good to press the publish button. Because if you do that with software, it's like packaging, it's deploying, it's making your server, it's setting the logging up. It's like, for a developer, the first thing for a developer usually is like customizing the editor. That's where a typical software project starts for a developer, right? And this is all built into the package. It's a nice button. Anyway. So when I start a new process, you get like the first hire. Let's hire Joe this time. Right? And then you get the three tasks, as I mentioned them, pre-populated. And I can say, I don't need this one, but I want a background check for this particular hire. So you can start adding your ad hoc tasks on the fly next to the tasks created and driven by the process. You can use a whole collaboration environment as I just showed it in the process. So I think all the other features are pretty much clear. Right, also on the fly, I want to show that now as well. On the fly, I can go into the contract and assign it to Mary, for instance, and go back. So all of that doesn't have to be specified in the process, you can just do that at runtime as well. Of course, it's pretty basic, so we quickly have new ideas on how to improve it, so let's start to improve it. This time I'm going to switch to the advanced flows, which brings up the BPM editor. And the first thing we're going to realize is, okay, it would be much nicer if we can do them in sequence. Right? So we just draw the transitions between them, we publish this changed version, and we start the process again. Let's hide Peter this time. So we see, of course, the first action, the first task is being done. When I check it off, the new task is being created, and so on until all three are done. Okay, cool. Let's make another improvement to our hiring process. The next improvement will be to add a decision. So now, and this is one of the key challenges, or not the key challenge, but the key targets we have, is that this editor should really involve no coding for approval. I'm going to add an approval here to show that non-technical people can actually build simple approval processes already with that. So notify. So suppose that after the interview we have a human decision to say if it's approved, then you go to the contract, and if it's rejected, then you go to notify the candidate that it is rejected. Okay, as easy as that. Right. And just for the sake of things, I will, for showing this, I will say also that I will be the one doing the interview, and for the contract, it's me, Mary, or Phil. And what that means is that also here we specify, or we did like a lot of user testing to find out what really works. We try to simplify it to the simplest possible thing, but no simpler so that it actually works. And the assignment, if you just specify one person, it's really just assigned to that person, you become an assignee. If you select multiple people, they all become candidates to take that task. Then they all get an email like, you could take this task, and then the first one that takes it, he's got it. So there's a mechanism to lock and to make sure that no two people start doing double work. You can also start working with roles. Also here, we try to make it very intuitive to say like you can create a new role, but you can also say just like, oh, use the same assignment as this other task. You can start from there. So you don't really have to start from there. Okay. Let's get started with that one. So we publish. I don't have good names anymore, so let's hire number 3. Okay, so the task was assigned to me automatically, and when I approve it, I can see, okay, there's tasks you could do next. I get an automatic notification, I can go to the contract, and of course this task is offered to 3 people, so I can take it. After I take it, I can complete this one. And it informs me about new stuff to be done. So let's see what other. There's a couple of other things I'd like to show. All right, the ones that I sort of said in the beginning. So okay, so let's add some more data to it, right? So let's say the CV has to be uploaded, and the candidate's email address has to be uploaded. So we can quickly like add a form to the task. You can say, okay, I want some reminders on this. So the due date is actually 1 day, let's say 1 week after started. Start reminding after 2 days. Remind every day. And if it's not done after 6 days, let's say, then escalate me. So that's how easy it is to configure all that and to have the peace of mind that you can just concentrate on other stuff. Yeah. So I'll publish this just to show you that the form is now integrated. You can upload some signed contract, or should it be the CV, but anyway. You enter the candidate email, and that's how we can start using that information. I want to show you one quick other example. Yep. Sorry. Which is the contract approval. So in this case, I start the process. So in this case, the trigger is the form. So we have to set the contract, and yeah, that's about it. All right. I can also do a choice and say not only the country is important, but also in which country this is done. Belgium, of course, and the next step? We can do like a review step. And let me actually, I should switch to the advanced flows because I want to do a review. And then want to have an automatic decision basically that not this one. I want to sorry for this. I didn't want a user task, but I want the Google Drive. So I want to show how it works when we start integrating, because this is what I think is really interesting. It shows division, so we worked it out really nice for one, but from now on forward, we're going to add one integration after the other. And this is just to show you the concept that we have in mind. So let's create a new integration. So we're going to connect to Google Drive, and this is done through OAuth. I'm not sure if you're familiar with OAuth, but it's like an authentication. It's kind of like single sign-on, but then between applications. And what I now do in these couple of clicks is I actually establish the integration. So if you want to integrate two enterprise systems in the past, it's like a big work. And here, because of this standard and the open APIs that the two solutions have on the cloud, it can actually be done in a couple of clicks. This is one of the really big opportunities moving forward in the cloud. As more solutions are available there, the integration becomes a lot easier as well. So I configured it and I say, okay, when the contract is approved, I want to upload it to my contracts folder. And actually the contract field from the form is given as the thing to upload. All right. Now, extra. Yeah, prepare this very well, so meaning that we don't have the exact meaningful names, but I just wanted to show you that you can actually also do a human decision to say, this is also something which I'm really excited about. So this topic or this session today, it scratches the surface. But what gets me really excited is to make BPM simpler, we have to come up with a good solution how to manage the data. Because that's what we saw in the past. Always when data management comes into play, that's when it gets really technical. And so here you can see like a glimpse of what we're doing in the back, which is you have a file, it is the contract, and you can here see that you can start working with the file name and the content type and some of the properties of the file, or you can just select the country as well to start working with that. So if the country equals France, then we're going to do an extra review, and otherwise, if the country equals France, then we're just going to do the upload, and otherwise we're going to do an extra review. That's something I wanted to show you as well. Okay, so I published it. I'm going to just take the same signed contract again. Yeah, let's do France. Yeah, because it's always interesting if we can see. There's the review task. And also here you can see that if you have modeled a form in your process and someone filled in a form, it also appears in the screen, so you can see who filled what data. So when we complete this task, it goes through the automatic decision, comes at the upload, and when we refresh, we see here that the signed contract was updated. When you click it, you can download it immediately from Google Drive, but just for the sake of it, I'll just show that it also went into my contract folder. So it's already A10 in maybe we should leave it at that. So I hope that this has given you some inspiration where we're going with Effektif, and inspired you also to get more involved into BPM. With that, glad to take any questions you might have.